Breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
You are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bava. Let's begin with the headlines we're tracking at the moment. India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met Russian President Vladimir Putin. He conveyed a message from Prime Minister Modi regarding his recent visit to Ukraine. In fact, Mr. Doval informed Putin that Prime Minister Modi had expressed a desire to brief the Russian leader about his talks with the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Dr. Jaishankar is in Switzerland from Germany on the final leg of his three-nation tour that also took him to Saudi Arabia. He has met with the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and the World Health Organization Director General. Russian forces have begun a significant counter-offensive against Ukrainian troops in Russia's Kursk region, according to a senior Russian commander. Pro-Ukrainian observers are reporting heavy fighting in parts of the occupied area and the possible Russian recapture of villages. Vladimir Putin has warned the West and NATO that allowing Ukraine to attack Russia with long-range missiles would be a significant change to the nature of the war. European Central Bank cut interest rates for the second time in 3 months, bringing baseline borrowing costs to 3.5%. The US Federal Reserve is expected to follow suit in the next few days, now that inflation is near its target 2% range. Donald Trump has ruled out another presidential debate against his rival Kamala Harris before November's election. Meanwhile, Harris expands the lead over Trump in the first post-debate poll. A SpaceX crew of 4 completed the first private spacewalk ever undertaken by non-governmental astronauts. Well, our top focus, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met Russian President Vladimir Putin on the sidelines of the BRICS National Security Advisors meeting. And sources have said that Mr. Doval's visit was actually intended for him to go to Russia and it would be aimed at resolving the Russia-Ukraine war. He was reportedly carrying Prime Minister Modi's peace plan for President Putin. Now, in the talks, the Russian leader expressed hopes that Prime Minister Modi will travel to Russia's Kazan next month to attend the annual BRICS summit. Do note that NSA Doval's visit to Russia comes 2.5 weeks after Prime Minister Modi's historic visit to Ukraine. Here's a ground report.
Days after PM Modi returned from Kyiv, NSA Ajit Doval met Russian President Vladimir Putin to share PM Modi's views to resolve the ongoing conflict.
As Prime Minister told you during a telephone talk, that he was keen to brief you about his visit to Ukraine and his meeting with President Zelensky. And he wanted me to come specially and personally and brief you about the talks.
After receiving the brief, Russian President Mr. Putin has invited Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend the BRICS summit and also proposed holding a bilateral summit with him.
We are waiting for His Excellency Mr. Modi in Kazan, and I propose to organize a bilateral meeting on the 22nd of October in order to analyze results of our joint work dealing with implementation of agreements which we reached during his visit to Moscow, and to discuss the future-oriented actions.
Earlier this month, Russian President Mr. Putin had said that China, India and Brazil could act as mediators in potential peace talks over Ukraine. PM Modi is one of the very few leaders who has managed to visit both Russia and Ukraine and was able to put his views forward regarding the ongoing conflict.
और मुझे लगता है कि युद्ध की सबसे पहली कैजुअलिटी किसकी होती है तो निर्दोष बालकों की होती है और वो बहुत दर्दनाक होता है। हम न्यूट्रल नहीं थे, हम पहले दिन से ही पक्षकार रहे हैं और हमारा पक्ष है शांति का।
Mr. Putin has now invited Indian Prime Minister for BRICS summit to be held later this year and has proposed for a bilateral meeting. This development underlines the diplomatic efforts of India to broker peace between the two countries at a time when the West is rallying behind Ukraine for more offensive. Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
Meanwhile, Russia has initiated a counter-offensive in the Kursk region just over a month after the rapid Ukrainian advance there. The full scale and potential outcome of this new operation, they are still unfolding, but reports indicate that counterattacks have begun along the western edge of the Ukrainian salient, with Russian troops making moves from several directions, the north, the northeast and the west, we're told. In response, Ukrainian forces have launched fresh assaults west of Snagost, aiming to counter the Russian push. But for the latest update, let's go across to Strategic Affairs expert Brahma Chalani. Thank you so much, sir, as always, for making time for us. Now, just to understand what's unfolding currently, Ukrainian forces had tried to make Russia nervous with their Kursk moves to scurry to send troops from one area to another and to stop their offensive in key areas. But with this latest reported move, you think Ukraine has been caught stumped?
Well, the Kursk incursion into Russian territory has failed to stem Russia's territorial advances in eastern Ukraine. Russia already occupies 1/5 of Ukraine. The Kursk incursion was a great publicity stunt on the part of President Zelensky, but it failed to make any strategic or military headway. In fact, this Kursk incursion came after Ukraine's failed counter-offensive of last year. So since last year, it's becoming increasingly clearer that Ukraine's war strategy is floundering. And now there is apparent Ukraine fatigue in the West. As the fatigue begins to set in, Ukraine is coming under subtle Western pressure. The Western rhetoric is still that we will stand with Ukraine. But quietly, Western officials are beginning to press Zelensky to revise his war strategy and adopt more realistic war aims and objectives.
Well, Russian forces are making steady gains in eastern Ukraine, and analysts have been questioning the effectiveness of deploying Kyiv's limited resources in order to actually capture Russian territory, as you've been highlighting, Mr. Chalani. But As per the latest reports that have emerged, also more than $30 million worth of aircraft tires made by Western manufacturers were imported into Russia last year via intermediaries despite attempts to ban the trade. This is what a Ukrainian government agency has said on record. And as per the latest records that are available, the custom records, we can see that the vast majority of aircraft equipment were imported into Russia. They were produced by companies that are headquartered in France, Britain, the United States and Japan. Sir, how do you think this is likely to impact the current state of affairs?
The unprecedented Western sanctions against Russia were aimed primarily to cause the economic collapse of Russia and to force it to withdraw from the areas it has occupied in Ukraine. Both those objectives have failed because Russia has actually transited to a war economy. It has managed to ramp up its industrial capacity to manufacture armaments and critical munitions. And in terms of its territorial gains in Ukraine, it has consolidated those gains since it began its invasion in February 2022. So today, the Western strategy, while seeking to tighten any possible loopholes in the sanctions that they've imposed against Russia, they are at the same time, especially the Europeans, continuing to import critical materials from Russia. This is the irony of it. You know, at one side, they're trying to close any loopholes in their sanctions campaign against Russia. On the other hand, they're relying on Russia for critical things, including the Europeans are relying on Russia for gas. Gas imports from Russia into Europe have actually increased to such an extent that they have now overtaken gas imports from US to Europe. So that goes to show how the Western camp has created holes in its own sanction strategy because they need materials from Russia that they cannot do without.
Well, Mr. Chalani, always a pleasure to hear your perspective. Thank you so much for joining us on The World 24/7. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president in an interview has said a Chinese-Brazilian peace proposal is destructive and simply serves as a political statement. We are also hearing that a meeting between the Chinese president and Mr. Zelensky is on the cards. Meanwhile, the Russian president has warned that lifting long-range missile restrictions on Ukraine would mean that NATO countries would be at war with Russia. Taking questions from reporters in Moscow, Putin said, if this decision is made, it will mean nothing less than the direct participation of NATO countries, the United States and European countries in the war in Ukraine. That would mean they were fighting Russia. This is what Putin has added. His comments came as the US and UK were weighing lifting a block on Ukraine, using their missiles to hit targets inside Russia amid fears of the war escalating. Meanwhile, Britain and the United States are poised to cross a decisive Rubicon in the Ukraine war today at a White House summit where they will discuss plans to allow Kyiv to strike targets inside Russia with Western-supplied missiles. In a final bid to scare off the West, as I just mentioned, Putin warned he would regard such an agreement as tantamount to NATO directly entering the war. But military experts argue any guidelines agreed for the British weapons at the 2-hour summit in Washington could also then pave the way for the Ukrainians to fire US-supplied tactical ballistic missile systems at airfields and army bases deep inside Russia. A Kremlin spokesperson suggested the meeting between Keir Starmer and Joe Biden was a mere formality and that a deal had already been done, vowing Russia's response will be appropriate. Vishnu Shom has a detailed report for you.
Why are we looking at Ukraine today? Not just because of this important visit, but also because there are now reports that the United Kingdom has cleared the use of Storm Shadow cruise missiles for use by Ukraine against targets deep within Russia. That may push Russia's red lines. Now, these weapons already exist, but to use them in territory which Russia hasn't illegally occupied might be pushing that red line. What are we talking about? Well, this actually, the Storm Shadow missile, it can hit targets more than 500 kilometers away. So it's already been integrated, as I said, into Ukrainian Air Force aircraft, including Russian-built Sukhoi 24 bombers. That's a legacy of the past. You can see that on a Su-24 bomber over there. However, these low observable, extremely sophisticated weapons can only be used on targets in areas illegally occupied by Russia. Now, however, that's set to change with reports that the UK has green-lighted the use of the Storm Shadow to use on targets in Russia far away from the war zone. Ukraine says it needs to hit Russian targets further afield to protect itself, while observers say that a Russian response to this could be massive. The international worry is that Moscow is seriously thinking about the use of nuclear weapons as the escalation matrix continues to rise. Now, what exactly are we talking about in terms of range of this weapon? Well, here's a map of Ukraine that you can see, and let's bring up Kiev to give you a point of reference. Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, over there. And if you actually take a look at the areas which we've marked in blue, these are areas which have been occupied illegally by Russia, not just now, but from 2014 onwards. And the line that you see over here, the red line right up on top over here, to about 560 kilometers is the actual range of the Storm Shadow missile. It's a cruise missile, and therefore all of these areas can be hit by the Ukrainians. And that could create all sorts of problems as far as that red line I was talking about.
In other news, our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, is in Switzerland from Germany on the final leg of his three-nation tour that also took him to Saudi Arabia. He has met with the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and the WHO Director General. Meanwhile, during his conversation at the Geneva Center for Security Policy, Dr. Jaishankar described the India-China relationship as complex as per ANI's report. He also highlighted the long-standing struggle in the trade issues between our two nations and said that the economic relationship with China has been unfair and imbalanced. In fact, Dr. Jaishankar further said that apart from border issues, China and India also face difficulties in other sectors, including technology, telecom, as well as the digital sector. In a quick update from the United States now, Republican nominee Donald Trump has announced that he will not take part in another presidential debate with Kamala Harris ahead of the November 5th election. This decision follows several polls indicating that Kamala Harris won their recent debate. In fact, in a statement on social media platform Truth Social, Trump declared there will be no third debate. This comes after his debate on Tuesday with Harris and his previous debate with President Joe Biden in June. As per a Reuters Ipsos poll that closed on Thursday, Kamala Harris leads Republican Donald Trump 47% to 42% in the race to the White House, increasing her advantage after a debate against Donald Trump that voters largely think she won. Listen to what Trump had to say regarding not debating Kamala Harris again, followed by my colleague Benji Hayer's report.
So because we've done two debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate.
In a rambling social media announcement, Donald Trump backed out of a rematch, insisting he came out on top in the first clash. He said that the key issues this election, the economy, immigration, have been discussed enough with President Joe Biden and now Kamala Harris. Her and Trump's testy 90-minute clash this week was viewed by tens of millions of Americans. The White House hopefuls sparring over abortion, foreign policy. The night remembered most perhaps for several outlandish falsehoods and baseless conspiracy theories spread by the former president, rattled after Harris got under his skin with a series of jibes. Most polls indicate the vice president won that debate. She told supporters at a rally that voters are owed another in coming weeks. Some respite, though, for President Trump shortly after his decision. A judge in the state of Georgia dropped a handful of charges in the criminal case investigating his efforts to overturn the 2020 election outcome. In Tuesday's debate, he again denied he lost that election despite all evidence suggesting otherwise. The two trials related to his attempts to subvert democracy will likely not happen before people head to the polls in November. Benji Haya, NDTV, Washington.
Well, news and updates continue in a moment right after this very short break. Don't go anywhere.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of power, Delhi,
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show.
Breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of power, Delhi,
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show.
Breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of power, Delhi,
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show.
Breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
I've been reporting reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India.
Welcome back. There will be no extra NHS funding without reform, the British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has said, as he promised to draw up a new 10-year plan for the health service in the United Kingdom. This pledge came after a damning report warned the NHS in England was in a critical condition. The Prime Minister said the new plan, expected to be published in the spring, would be the biggest reimagining of the National Health Service since it was formed in the UK. However, the Conservatives have said the government needed to turn rhetoric to action after scrapping its plans to reform social care and build new hospitals. And finally, 2 astronauts, a billionaire and an engineer, completed the world's first private spacewalk in orbit outside a SpaceX capsule, wearing a new line of spacesuits in a risky feat previously exclusive to astronauts from national space programs. Take a look.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition, and
450 miles above Earth, this was not a leisurely stroll for tech entrepreneur Jared Isaacman and SpaceX engineer Sarah Gillis. They created history by setting off on the first private spacewalk on Thursday, giving a big boost to space tourism. Isaacman and his crew waited until their capsule was depressurized before popping open the hatch. Isaacman was the first to exit the spacecraft, joining an elite group of spacewalkers who until now had only included professional astronauts from a dozen countries. All 4 on board donned SpaceX's new spacewalking suits to protect themselves from the harsh vacuum. They launched on Tuesday from Florida, rocketing farther from Earth than anyone since NASA's moonwalkers. The orbit was reduced by half to 737 kilometers for the spacewalk. Bureau report for NDTV World. Thank you for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest updates for you. Do stay tuned.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of power, Delhi,
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show.
breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From maximum city, Mumbai,
to the seat of power, Delhi,
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show.
Breakfast news on NDTV. 8 a.m. every day.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone.
Hello everyone, you're watching Breakfast Show on NDTV 24/7. I'm joining you from Mumbai studios. I'm Radhika Ramaswamy. We also have Rishika, who will take you through all that's making news from Delhi studios.
Thanks very much, Radhika. Very good morning to you and very good morning to viewers who are joining us on the Breakfast Show this morning. Over the course of the next 1 hour, Radhika and I will take you through all the top stories we're tracking from around the country and the world. And the world of entertainment, it is a Friday after all. First up, the headlines. Well, heavy rain in the national capital region. The Met Department has issued an orange alert for Delhi NCR. There's a heavy rain forecast over the weekend. 3 days of heavy rain expected in other parts of North India as well.
Marine drive to Bandra in just 20 minutes in a big boost to Mumbai connectivity. New coastal road operational from today.
Bengal government versus doctor standoff intensifies. Mamata Banerjee offers to resign after a bid to hold talks with the doctors fails. Mamata Banerjee was made to wait for 2 hours and the doctors didn't meet her as they stick to their guns, demanding a live telecast of the meeting with the chief minister. This as the Bengal governor lashes out at Mamata Banerjee, calls her Lady Macbeth.
Indian Navy successfully tests surface-to-air missile. DRDO Navy test missile off the coast of Odisha.
Well, after the polls show that Kamala Harris won the debate earlier this week, Donald Trump now says no to another presidential debate, claims he clearly won the first debate. Kamala Harris's campaign had called for another debate.
Baseless, irrational, absurd allegations, Adani Group on Swiss media report. up, let's get you the big infrastructure story from the city of Mumbai. Now, Marine Drive to Mumbai, in fact, Marine Drive to Bandra is just 20 minutes away, Rishika. This is the biggest infrastructure boost as far as Coastal Road is concerned. What has come up is a bridge that connects Worli to Worli Sea Face. Of course, it used to take about 5 to 7 minutes on that particular stretch of that bridge, but now it takes less than a minute just on that particular bridge. So now, all the way from Marine Drive till Bandra, you can reach, commuters can reach in just about 20 minutes. In fact, Rishika, if I have to just talk about, how Mumbaikars feel about it, we used to feel that South Bombay, as it's called Sobo, is a different planet altogether. So there is this clear distinction, classification, discrimination when it came to people living in South Bombay and Bandra and beyond. So now perhaps that classification or distinction will stop with this, coastal road coming up and the commuter's distance reducing.
All right, well, commuters' distance reducing and how I think it's such a big boost as far as connectivity in Mumbai is concerned, a city that is clearly notorious, Radhika, for its narrow roads, especially the arterial roads. So now it's, vehicles that are essentially heading from South Mumbai to Bandra, like Radhika was explaining, can directly enter the ceiling between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. The southbound vehicles still, will have to continue using that regular route till both arms of the coastal road, of course, are connected to the ceiling. It's a huge boost to connectivity, and we're given to understand that all these roads have now opened up. So Anuj is joining us live from the location, Radhika. Anuj, where are you at the moment exactly, and what can you show us?
I'm present here at the entrance of the Bowstring Arch Bridge, and that is what this bridge is called. And as you can see around me, the preparation for inauguration yesterday is still on, and the vehicles have started to pass on this road. This road was made open to public, to commuters from 7 a.m. And it will be open till 11 p.m. Although it started a little late today, it started at around 7:20 because of certain traffic clearance. But after the intervention from the BMC, this bridge was made open not much after 15 minutes of its original time. Now, more importantly, the vehicles that you see coming here are all the northbound vehicles. They are coming from the southern part of the city, as you and Radhika were talking about, and they can make their way through to the Bandra, which is the central or the suburbs of the city, in no time. This is the phase 4 of the coastal road development. The coastal road has been getting inaugurated, has been getting opened for the public in 4 different phases since the beginning of this year. In March, we saw it getting open from Worli till Marine Drive. Then, of course, the phase 2 and 3 were opened in June and July successively. Especially the northbound vehicles got a little bit of ease because of that. But what we see here at the moment is an important development, because the coastal road, this phase 2 coastal road, which brought the vehicles from the southern part of the city till Worli, will now be connected to the Bandra-Worli Sea Link in no time. An important reason for this to be such a significant development is because even after the coastal road cutting down the time and making it close to 10 to 15 minutes, the traffic congestion at the Worli would really cause a lot of, would really make people spend a lot of their time before they could get on the Bandra-Worli Sea Link, making it quite ineffective, which is why this middle Bowstring Arch Bridge becomes so important, because it potentially saves them from all their traffic congestion and gives them an easy pass to not just the sea link, but through the sea link, of course, to the Bandra region, which has one of the most important commercial centers of the city, that is the BKC. We were talking to a few commuters here in the beginning who were waiting before the road was, before the road became open for the public, and they were talking about how it is an extremely important development, because people reach home and people reach their work in no time. This is still a one way. This is just the northbound development that has been inaugurated or made open for the public. The southbound part of this road, that is the other half of this road, will be made open to the public in the latter part of this year, close to December is what we are learning as of now. But then this entire coastal road project is expected to go as far as Virar, which is the northernmost suburbs of the city. And if that becomes a reality in the coming future, that will mean that the ambitious coastal road project, which was there in the, which was there in theory right since the late 1960s, will finally materialize after 5 to 6 decades.
Before we play out for our viewers the report that you just sent us, can we just request you, for the benefit of those of us who are not in Mumbai and don't know what it's like, Radhika and you of course have seen all of this firsthand, can you just request your camera person to pan and show us where exactly you're standing and what this entire crucial connection looks like?
Sure, I'll just ask my camera person, Mr. Sunil, to pan and show. So you see the vehicles coming from, approaching from the southern part of the city. They've taken a small bridge after leaving the coastal road, at Worli. This is the Worli part of the city, and now they are approaching. As the camera will be panning to its right, we'll be seeing that these cars approaching to the Bandra-Worli sea link. Which is what you can see. Close to the blue bridge right behind me, and that is the part from where the Bandra-Worli sea link will begin. It's a 6-kilometer stretch which will directly connect the Worli part of the city to the Bandra region.
All right, thank you, Anuj, for getting us all those details. In fact, I did visit this particular place yesterday before the inauguration, and we did take a drive through that particular bridge. And of course, it has made lives of all the commuters easy. What used to take 1 hour, Rishika, from Marine Drive to Bandra now just takes about 20 minutes. And this bridge has only made it easier because when you get onto the Worli, interchange, as Anuj was pointing out, it takes, there's a lot of traffic congestion. So therefore, it takes at least about 7 minutes to reach Seaface. Now, just about a minute. Let's also give you this report that Anuj sent just a while ago.
The Chief Minister of the state, Mr. Eknath Shinde, along with his 2 deputies, inaugurated this new bridge, which is the bowstring new arch bridge connecting Worli to the Bandra-Worli sea link, which will be opening for commuters. We'd like to talk to them about what they feel about this new road and how they think their experience is going to be traveling on this new bowstring arch bridge. You are going to be the first commuter on this new bridge. So what do you have to say about that?
This morning my husband thought he would take me to this sea link for the first time, and I'm so happy with this connection because they'll come home early in the evening.
Gradually they have opened one by one part of coastal road. So from Bridge Candy we were using up to Blue Sea, so that was only 8 minutes travel. So gradually when they are opening phase by phase, the time become less and less to go to office. So before this we were going through Worli and everywhere, so it was taking 1 hour and 1 hour 5 minutes. Nowadays we are reaching home office by 45 minutes, and after opening this phase I think we will be reaching office in 30-35 minutes. Okay. That is 18 kilometers from my house.
The Chief Minister of the state, Mr. Eknath Shinde, along with his 2 deputies, inaugurated this new bridge, which is the bowstring new arch bridge connecting Worli to the Bandra-Worli sea link, which will be opening for commuters. We'd like to talk to them.
All right, so you can see why both Radhika and Anuj are so excited about that particular coastal road opening up, because it's going to make connectivity, at least certain parts of Mumbai, quite a breeze. We'll continue to get you the latest on that, but let's shift our focus, Radhika, to the big developing story from West Bengal. The standoff between Mamata Banerjee and junior protesting doctors has only intensified, with Mamata Banerjee, offering to resign, Radhika, and this after the doctors made her wait for 2 hours and still didn't meet her yesterday.
That's right. The doctors, in fact, waited outside the state secretariat for a couple of hours. In fact, the Supreme Court had left it to Bengal government to deal with these striking doctors. So, of course, the protest continues. The demands of the doctors are also, continuing at this point. So, what we are hearing at this point is that unless their demands are met, these doctors are not going to budge. So, at this point, of course, Mamata Banerjee offering to resign, and the doctors adamant that they will continue to protest until their demands are met and until, of course, these the meeting that they want to have with Mamata Banerjee is televised, is recorded and live streamed.
Yes.
That's their demand.
Yes, that is their key demand. Let's listen into the reactions.
আমাদের সরকারকে মামাটি মানুষের সরকারকে অনেক অসম্মান করা হয়েছে, অনেক অপমান করা হয়েছে, সোশ্যাল নেটওয়ার্কে অনেক ভুল বোঝাবুঝি হয়েছে, অনেক কুৎসা অপপ্রচার হয়েছে, যারা সাধারণ মানুষ জানতেন না যে এর মধ্যে একটা কালার আছে। মানুষ এসেছিলেন বিচার চাইতে তিলোত্তমার, কিন্তু আশা করি মানুষ বুঝতে পারছেন ওরা বিচার চায় না, ওরা চায় চেয়ার। আমি মানুষের স্বার্থে এমনকি নিজে পদত্যাগ করতেও রাজি আছি, আমার মুখ্যমন্ত্রীর পদ চাই না, কিন্তু আমি চাই মানুষ বিচার পাক, তিলোত্তমা বিচার পাক, আর সাধারণ মানুষ চিকিৎসা পাক।
আমরা নিজেদের গাড়ির ব্যবস্থা করে আমরা 30-32 জন প্রতিনিধি নবান্নের উদ্দেশ্যে গেলাম। ওখানে গিয়ে আমরা 1 ঘন্টা 2 ঘন্টা 3 ঘন্টা অপেক্ষা করলাম। বৃষ্টি পড়লো, আমরা দেখলাম ওখানে আমাদের দাঁড় করিয়ে রেখে বারবার বলা হলো যে এই কথাটা, যে লাইভ স্ট্রিমিং ইজ নন নেগোসিয়েবল। এই কথাটা উল্লেখ করা হলো। আমরা কি কোনো নেগোসিয়েশন করতে গেছিলাম ওখানে? আমরা কি কোনো নেগোসিয়েশন করতে গেছিলাম? আমরা আমাদের 5টা যে দাবি, সেই দাবি যে কতটা যথার্থ সেই কথাটা তাদের জানাতে গেছিলাম, এবং আলোচনার মাধ্যমে একটা সুষ্ঠু সমাধান হবে। এই যে অচলাবস্থা চলছে সেটা কাটবে এই আশায় গেছিলাম।
All right, let's go to Saurabh Gupta, who's joining us from Kolkata. Saurabh has been covering this over the last several weeks. Saurabh, public outcry over this is intensifying. Doctors continuing to protest. They have placed a list of demands. Of course, state government is under a lot of pressure. Mamata Banerjee offering to resign. So what, according to you, is the plan of action as far as the state government is concerned? And what are all these protesting doctors telling you?
Well, there was hope that that meeting would happen yesterday, but it seems to have fallen through because there was an insistence on live streaming, something that the protesting doctors wanted and insisted on, something the government didn't agree to. However, the protesting doctors had sent a list of conditions, and most of those conditions were met, including the fact that they wanted 32 representatives, and they had justified it saying there are about nearly 30 medical colleges, and therefore if there's one representative from every medical college also, that would almost take it to 30, and then there were a few others. So the government accepted all of that. However, the government insisted that the meeting would be recorded and not live streamed, and if required they would share a copy with the protesting doctors, and they would share a copy with the Supreme Court, and they would share a copy with the protesting doctors with the permission of the Supreme Court. Now, this matter, of course, is under, is being heard in the Supreme Court. However, the doctors have argued that that does not put any that does not create any problems for live streaming. They say that, Mamata Banerjee has herself live streamed several, administrative meetings in several districts. Now, we put that question to the Chief Secretary and the DG who addressed the media, and they said, look, there are administrative meetings where people in the districts need to know that certain issues have been discussed, and therefore parts of the meeting are live streamed, parts of the meeting are not. There is always, a major portion of the meeting that is not live streamed, and formal meetings are not live streamed. They also added that given that the matter is, being heard in the Supreme Court and is a sub judice matter, we will not live stream it. But the doctors did not agree to that proposal. The doctors say that, they wanted the live streaming in the interest of transparency. Now, in all of this, the Chief Minister also waited for the doctors yesterday about 2 hours, and the 2 previous days for about a similar amount of time. But on all 3 attempts by the state government to bring the doctors to the negotiating table, the doctors have refused to come because they say that their conditions have not been met.
Saurabh,
however,
what really remains to be
the
seen
Chief Minister yesterday did make a big statement.
Yes, and I wanted to just talk about that statement, because what really remains to be seen here is whether that is just political posturing or whether Mamata Banerjee is actually, considering her resignation over this protest seriously.
Well, if you carefully listen to what Mamata Banerjee said yesterday, she did allude to public sentiment, and then there is public sentiment in favor of the protesting doctors. There's also a certain sentiment that is now, taking shape, and which is that perhaps doctors should come back to work. It's been, so many days. And these issues can be resolved through dialogue. Unless there is dialogue, there's no hope of these issues being resolved, which is why we saw a very different Mamata Banerjee yesterday. And, she's usually not a leader who, who's a very aggressive politician with a, with a finger on the pulse of the people.
Yes, she wasn't being her combative self. I think
yes.
that's really
and she wasn't, in fact, she with folded hands even apologized to the people. And that is something that is to be noted. And then, of course, made that big statement that in the interest of public interest, she is willing to resign, which is a big statement coming from her.
All right. Thanks very much, Saurabh. We're going to keep tracking the details of that story. Of course, we'll expect political reactions to come in as well. But let's address some breaking news now, Radhika. We have breaking news that's coming in. Security forces have busted a terrorist hideout in Surankot area of the Poonch district in Jammu and Kashmir, and officials are saying that there is some incriminating material that has in fact been found from these hideouts. So Radhika, another encounter that we're reporting on ahead of elections in Jammu and Kashmir.
That's right. Let's go straight across to Nazir on this. Nazir, security forces. In fact, Nazir is not with us. So security forces there busting a terrorist hideout in Poonch district of J&K. That's the breaking update that we're getting. Officials, as Rishika was pointing out, saying that some incriminating materials was found from the hideout. Terrorists appear to have managed to escape after a brief exchange of firing is the initial information that we're getting. We'll try and get Nazir on this, but that's the breaking update that we're getting at this point from J&K. Crackdown on terror, security forces bust terrorist hideout.
Right, and in fact, terrorists reportedly, also escaped after the brief exchange of firing. That's what we're given to understand. But it is a massive terror crackdown, and security forces busting that terror hideout. And like we've been saying, Radhika, a lot of these, operations now coming to light ahead of the polls story that we're going to continue to track very closely. Let's shift our focus though to the other big development from Jammu and Kashmir. After his release from the Tihar jail, Radhika, the Baramulla sitting MP, Engineer Rashid, reached Kashmir and in fact addressed his first election rally in his home constituency of Baramulla, where he lashed out at Omar Abdullah and Mehbooba Mufti, who've accused him of being a BJP proxy.
That's right. In fact, after his release from Tihar jail, Baramulla MP Engineer Rashid reached Kashmir and is addressing his first election rally in his home constituency, Baramulla. Let's go to Nazir on this. Nazir, take us through the details as far as J&K poll campaigns are concerned. It is, of course, speaking now. Engineer Rashid begins campaign in the valley.
Well, he has become a social media sensation and the center of all the political debate in Jammu and Kashmir. Whether that would translate into votes or not, but when he arrived yesterday and reached his Baramulla parliamentary constituency, which he has won in recent parliament elections with massive margin, there was not much response, though the crowd was enthusiastic, but the size of crowd was far below than what many had expected. So that was could be a disappointing thing for him and his supporters, because when it comes to the real politics, when it comes to people on the ground rallying around a leader, that was not an encouraging thing for the leader who came out of jail after more than 5 years, riding on the wave he had created from jail in Baramulla constituency during parliament elections. That appeared to be missing. But on the social media, he has become biggest sensation. People have been watching. There are millions of views of his speech. He had launched scathing attacks on his opponents, particularly Omar Abdullah, Mehbooba Mufti, and Sajjad Lone. They have hit back and are calling him as BJP's proxy. Even Sajjad Lone, who once famously said Prime Minister Modi is his elder brother, yesterday he was shouting slogans, Modi ka jo yaar hai, gaddar hai, gaddar hai. That was Sajjad Lone without naming anybody, but no guesses, no prizes to guess who he was
Let's
referring to.
make no mistake, you know,
So-
he has been in jail for the last 5 years, Nazir, on terror funding charges. He's out of jail and he has started his political campaign. And like you said, he's become a social media sensation of sorts, addressing his first rally there after release. So lots happening there, you know, including the latest on the encounter. Nazir, we'll keep coming back to you for more updates from J&K. Thanks very much for joining us this morning on The Breakfast Show. All right, well, let's shift gears, Radhika, from elections to the economy. The two favorite subjects for us as Indians, the two things that we love talking about, politics and the economy. So the question, of course, is, are Achhe Din for the Indian economy finally here? Investors' wealth is surged to 6.59 lakh crores as markets have soared to a record high, Radhika. And also crude oil prices are down. But the big question on everyone's mind is, crude oil prices are down. Does that essentially mean that our petrol and diesel bills will go down?
Well, that's the big question. In fact, a revision in domestic petrol and diesel rates is likely only if lower rates are sustained. In fact, this is what the industry sources and officials are telling us. Inflation also down to a 5-year low. Retail inflation in August inched up to 3.65%, though vegetables and pulses witnessed price rise in double digits. This is what the official data is, in fact, telling us. Let's go to Sanchita Mukherjee, who's the senior finance professional, also business economist, as far as this, you know, entire the inflation issue is concerned. In fact, ma'am, my questions is retail inflation in August rose slightly, now yet remains below RBI's median target of 4%. So what factors are contributing to this current inflationary trend, and how sustainable is this inflation rate given the recent increase in prices of vegetables and pulses?
Thank you so much for having me here. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. So to address your question very directly, our inflation is actually low comparative to global numbers, right? I mean, during the times of the pandemic, the COVID, a lot of the developed markets, developed economies, they printed a lot of currency, which led to a lot of asset price inflation, which they're struggling with in today's date in terms of high interest rates. In India, we followed a different norm in which a lot of the pandemic issues were addressed with a lot of lending, a lot of food grain surpluses being distributed to the lowest common strata, and all of that. So we did not really effectively deal with that much of inflation. Our inflation is usually imported. When I say imported, it is contingent to the oil prices. So with the oil prices having come down substantially globally, inflation in Indian economy has also had a good footprint in terms of coming down in the recent years. The only point of worry, which has been the worry with the central bank, with authorities, is the food inflation, which is very erratic because of the erratic monsoon and the climate change impact which has been happening on our economy. I mean, there was a severe heat wave. Then year on year, we see monsoons are very, very disproportionate. In some places, they're very, very, very much in surplus. And in some places, there's a drought-like situation. So food prices do get affected with the vagaries of the nature. And that leads to inflation being unpredictable on the food footprint. Otherwise, it's very, very oil contingent and it's very much under control.
Sanchita, thanks very much for joining us with that quick roundup. You know, I have to say that I began this particular news story saying that we love talking about politics and economy, but I think it's time that we add climate change, Radhika, to that, because how closely is extreme weather actually linked to the economy? I think Sanchita has really broken that down for us this morning. Thanks very much again, Sanchita, for joining us. Well, moving on, the Adani Group is now denied allegations of involvement in the Swiss court proceedings. The allegations have been called an attempt to damage the group's reputation. The group has come out and said that no accounts subject to any kind of sequestration by any authority. So they've essentially, Radhika, come out and called all of these reports baseless.
That's right. Adani Group has called these reports baseless. They've called it baseless, irrational and absurd allegations. In fact, this is the reaction as far as Adani Group is concerned on a Swiss media report. No account subject to sequestration by any authority is what the group has said. All right, with that, we'll slip into a short break. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your life.
News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From maximum city, Mumbai,
to the seat of power, Delhi,
NDTV brings you the best breakfast show.
Breakfast news on NDTV, 8 a.m. every day.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.